second, third, this, that, and the other thing. And I was just kind of tired of not winning and putting in that much work and like pressure. And I knew I could do it. I just hadn't asked it out of myself.
Oh, that's really good.
Does that make sense?
On my mind and in my heart to talk about this because it comes up over and over and over again. We do these coaching sessions and, I'm talking to somebody and the answer, this is the thing. Well, I just don't know. I think we might just wait till next year. Mm-hmm. It's always wait till next year, wait till next year. And what it really is, it's about risk. It's about understanding, risk, and it feels risky, but defining risk. And it's trying something that maybe you've never tried in your event. It's a new way to raise some money, something new to do, something that might take you to that next level, that might help you get over to that next, they've been trying to break 100,000 and they can't do it. But something comes up, they go, well, I don't know. We just wait till next year. And sometimes you just got to go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the title. You said, let's talk about going for it. And I was like,
yeah,
heck yeah. Really, that's a great topic for a couple of guys like you and I who aren't risk averse, frankly.
Yeah. And I want to say there's a difference between doing something that's risky and taking risk. Those are two different things. And as somebody who's a risk taker, pilot, helicopter pilot. I even did a little stint as a stuntman at one point in my life, being a firefighter, running into fire, buildings on
motorcycle
fire,
racing
motorcycles. So there's some risky things, but now in business, okay, I'm, and Trevor knows this because he's my partner. I am very risk averse. Okay. I'm to doing things risky. Okay. I don't want to do
cautiously optimistic.
I'm cautiously optimistic, but I don't want to do anything risky in business. And in nonprofits, you got to do the same thing, but we do take risks. Okay. There's a calculated risk of hiring a new employee. There is a risk in, maybe taking on a new building or some new responsibilities or doing new things. And in the nonprofit world's the same thing. Because if we wait for all the lights to turn green, we're never going to get off the front porch.
Yeah. It's like stagnant and you can't really get a lot done. I mean, I call it, testing. I think that's really okay. Yeah. But like you said, I love the way you said, just go for it. I love how you laid out the example of like, hey, we're looking to break $100,000 for the first time and fun and, money raised. It's like, well, how are you going to know, without trying? Yeah. And we could even say, try, you know what I mean? Like, I want to try a new revenue enhancer that we saw work 3 counties over at another event or what have you, or, we're introducing new ideas and new concepts to people. The other thing is, we're not just saying this for the sake of saying it. We're not really just talking about taking a calculated risk or trying something new at your event just for the sake of doing it. A lot of organizations, a lot of big organizations, medium and small, are raising a tremendous amount of money by utilizing new concepts and creative concepts, and they're going for it, right? And it's working. And
yeah, I mean, well, no, I just was going to say, here's 2 great examples that I
please.
hear, and we hear over and over again, software. Okay. And, it is a fact. It is not a possibility. It's not maybe. It is a fact. The average increase is 30% to the bottom line the first time you use software. It is a fact. Statistics, company, it doesn't matter what software company you use, but just by using bidding software during your fundraising event will add 30% to your bottom line. And there's a lot of folks, they go, well, we just decided not to. We think we're going to wait till next year. So you don't need 30% this year? And I'm saying that rhetorically. I'm trying not to be quite so aggressive when I'm talking to somebody, but because we don't sell software or anything, there's nothing to gain, but it's just like, oh my gosh, it's like walking past $100 bill and not picking it up, or somebody giving you a donation of 30% increase of donation. And you say, no, thank you. I want to wait till next year. Is there risk? Is there risk in starting the process of implementing software for your first event? There is. Is it hard? Is necessarily everything's going to be easy? It's not. May there be speed bumps? Yes. But is all that worth it? If you're trying to raise $100,000 and you've been raising 60, well, that math is that means $20,000 right there just by one move. One chess move, I had $20,000 to my event.
Yeah, it's huge.
No, it's actually is that 18,000?
You think that sometimes, like, I mean, I kind of already know the answer, but I want to hear it because you talk to so many folks, coach so many folks. Do you think a lot of folks say it's a risk, but they're actually associating with the risk with a cost that they haven't incurred before? Because you use software as an example.
I do.
I think a lot of times it's like, oh, it's a cost.
I think they think, well, one, it's going to be, I'm trying to raise more money, not less money. It's going to cost me more money. I think that's one. I think there's also, well, who's going to do it? Because there's always trepidation about who's going to, figure it out. People. Yeah. So it's going to take some resources up front. I can't help but believe that, it's the fear of change. Well, we've done it this way because I hear, some of the excuses we hear, and this is not about software necessarily, but it's just about some of the risks. Somebody says, well, we've got a lot of older donors. So does everybody else. And all these same donors are probably going to multiple events. And guess what? They're all using bidding software. And I want people to start thinking about what is it risky, or is just there a calculated risk? Mm-hmm. And I don't care what it is. You want to try a golden ticket. Okay. A golden ticket raffle. We're going to raise $10,000. We're going to sell 100 tickets for $100. Gosh, boy, that sure sounds risky. Well, is it risky, or is there risk to it? Yeah, there is risk to it, but you can lower the risk. You can go out and get a sponsor for it that covers the cost. So then it doesn't matter if you sell 10 tickets or 100 tickets, you win. It could be maybe, we've had a volunteer be our auctioneer, and we're thinking about, getting a professional. Is there risk? Sure. Maybe they suck, because you didn't vet them out. But how can you lower that risk? Well, you can vet them out. You can talk to somebody who's used them before, talk to more than one person that's used them before. And there's things that you can do to lower that, to go for it. One of the simplest things to do, though, when going for it, that I've seen it's kind of mind boggling, really, is just ask for more money.
Mm. Yes, a lot of folks have a lot of trepidation with that. That brings folks a lot of fear.
So yesterday I had a coaching session, and somebody was talking about a golf tournament. So they're doing a golf tournament, and they actually have done a good job. They've got a good retention. They've had people come. They've done it. And I said, the thing about a golf tournament, the most impact you can have on raising more money is before the golf tournament, not during the golf tournament. It's before the golf tournament. Same thing in charity auctions, galas. The most impact that you can have on your night to raise more money is not at the event. Once you get to the event, it's too late. Everything is done.
Yeah, you're in there.
It's done. You're just riding it out, because you're
in the batter's box.
Yeah, you're up. So all the preparation is before that. And I think that's where people have to go for it, because that's where the decision's made. Are we going to use software? That's where the decision made is, are we going to hire the professional auctioneer? Are we going to use some consignment items? Are we going to do this golden ticket thing? Are we going to try to go get a $50,000 sponsor? And it is frightening to some point, but there's ways that you can do it, because you start reducing your risk. How do you reduce if you want to ask for 50,000, you've never done it before, how do you do that?
Start having conversations, start by asking, I guess,
Well, the first thing you got to do is ask, is be willing to ask.
Yeah.
And then you decide, so, okay, am I willing to ask? Yeah, I am willing to ask. Now, who am I going to go ask? Okay. Yeah. So there's some steps to it, but that first step, before you're going to get a $50,000 sponsor, if you've never had one before, is to decide to ask. And once you do that, once you make a decision that you're going to do something magically occurs with our subconscious and our psyche and our thing. We're going to do it. We're going to go for it. I'm going to go for it.
Folks can get over a lot of the fear, risk, or, trepidation about things and what have you, through preparedness. Mm-hmm. I just think that's something that's underutilized. It takes a lot of time, right? Yeah. We were just talking about being, in the batter's box, at bats, making multiple asks, talking to a bunch of people, hits, misses, the whole nine. But I think preparedness, so being ready, like you said, for the night of, not deciding to do these things 2 weeks out, 30 days out. I just think that the preparedness is huge.
I got a great one. All right, Trevor.
Yeah.
So those of you that don't know, Trevor is a former professional endurance athlete. That means he ran over marathon distances, like 30, 40, 50, 80 mile races, all this kind of stuff. He also did triathlons, and he's won. So I want you to tell everybody, what changed when you won the first time? What was the difference maker when the first time that you won a race?
That's a really good question. It was time for sure. Like, time on my feet, the more time, the more at bats. I can't recall how many ultra marathons I had ran before I won my first one. It had been at least like a dozen, and I'd gotten second, third. I was supported and sponsored. I had a shoe company I was running for, all that stuff. I remember I was 24 years old, all that stuff. What was the first thing I just, what I started doing? Okay, I'll tell you what I started doing. So like my race distance was going to always have me competing beyond 4 hours in the mountains. And I couldn't go run race pace every weekend for 4 hours, but I just started racing more. I was young. I could handle the volume. And when I wasn't racing, my, was going to be out in the hills 4 hours every weekend. Just so it almost was like, I was just used to being on my feet.
So it was work before the race, but then there's one other thing, because you told me what it was. It was during the race that you said this.
Oh, sorry,
happened.
man.
No. But what you're saying is absolutely true, because you're saying it's before the race. It's all the work is happening before the race. You decided to go for it before that. I'm gonna step up. There was a running back. I can't remember what his name was, but he was training. He was the number one draft pick, and he was really, really good and everything. He went and he was like, man. And they said, yeah, you need to go train. You're out of shape. He goes, what are you talking about? He goes, man, I was in the best shape of my life. He went and trained with LaDainian Tomlinson in California. And he said, whenever I got there and I started working out, he goes, LaDainian Tomlinson was this incredible running back. He goes, but I'm thinking he's older. He's done all this stuff. And he goes, he ran me in the ground. And he goes, then I realized I had a lot to give up. But so he started his preparation before he ever went in the league, and he became, very successful. And he said that's where it was. But there was something else you said. I decided I was going to win.
Thank you. I started getting ticked off that I was losing. Like I was playing bridesmaid, they call it, right? I was getting second, third, this, that, and the other thing. And I was just kind of tired of not winning and putting in that much work and like pressure and stuff like that. Yeah, I knew I could do it. I just hadn't asked it out of myself.
Oh, that's really good.
Does that make sense? Good. Like, yeah, I really did know I could do it because I saw the people I was competing with. I'm just like, and like, of course, in athletics and things like that, there's always like a moment where you're like, I got to go now. And what was funny was, of course, I've had that moment a bunch of times where it's like, you got to go and just not look back. That's what I did. Yeah.
I think that's the same thing that we happen in when we're doing fundraising, because we're all sitting here thinking about it and we're going, well, I need to raise some more money. Well, I've got to go get this done. How am I going to do it? Okay, well, boy, sure would be nice to have a $50,000 donor. Yeah. Well, I've had a $25,000 donor for the last 5 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you got to start somewhere. I totally get that.
And that's what I'm saying. Yeah. But you kind of sit there and go, well, maybe it's time to go for it. And, just a real quick anecdote, there was just a story of somebody. So we had somebody I was coaching, and she said, I really would like to do. I said, what's the most money you've ever asked for? She said, 25,000. I said, how many of them you sold? She said, nothing. Never sold one, period. What's the most you've ever done? 15 grand. Okay. So how many did you sell? A couple of them. All right. And I said, ask for 50. She goes, what do you mean? I've never gotten 25. I said, well, so you got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I said, it isn't going to change anything. I said, all you're doing is you're just raising the bar. You're just saying, hey, this is a bigger deal. If you want to play in that game, you got to set the price to play in that, because there were other nonprofits around that were raising that money, and she was wanting to do it. And I said, well, why don't you just ask? She called me back, tears in her eye. And I mean, I could hear her she started kind of weeping a little bit. And she said, not only did I sell the $50,000, but I sold two $25,000 sponsorships.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And she was just so excited about it. And I said, what changed? She said, I asked. Yeah. She said, they were ready. They were ready. But she said, I just decided to ask.
Yeah. We're capable of so much. That's the one fun. It doesn't matter what the endeavor is, right? That's we don't spend time talking about the wins. We don't spend enough time talking about where we've come from and, what we've done to this point and all that stuff. We don't spend very much time in that. Sure, not probably going to hear a lot of that from other folks. I get that. I think that's a whole nother topic for another day, but we're capable of so much. And Jason's talking about going for it and just asking. You know what I mean? And just being willing to do it, and you've got nothing to lose. When we're talking about, we're talking about costs and the risk associated with, like, well, we've never done this before. We've never paid for $2,000 software. I'm just throwing a term out there, right? We've never done that before. Well, there's another way to look at it too, right? It's an investment. That's another way to look at it, right? I mean, it's an investment in your organization. It's an investment in the growth, of your event and all that great stuff. And I just think that, like, just having this conversation makes me think that we're all capable of so much. And another thing is, like, if you really, really feel that way, like you said, the gal you were talking to, was weeping with, because she didn't expect it out of herself. Well, that was a huge eye opener. Hopefully she can take with her the rest of her life, just to show her that she was capable of it.
We all come up to a point where you got to have a candid conversation with yourself. The person that you shouldn't, but we do all the time. We all lie to ourselves at different times. Well, I just can't do that. I can't do this. Or, oh, it's not for me. Or we make excuses. Well, my board's not really cooperative. I wish I had better donors. It's always something. And what we're trying to do is give ourselves the easy way out. And I can tell you, as somebody who's tried to take the easy way out so many times in my life, I'm always looking for the shortcut. But ultimately it comes down, whenever I've decided in my life I'm going to do something, and I let the excuses go, and I just say, I'm going to commit and I'm going to go do this. I've still failed. I've still had failure where I said, I'm going to go do this, and I've still failed. But more times than not, while I might not hit that goal, I got close. Much closer than I would if I'd have done a shortcut, tried to sidestep it, make a complaint, excuse, whatever. And I think as nonprofit fundraisers, if you're listening to this, the person that has to make the change is you.
Yeah,
you're the one I'm talking about having to go for it. You maybe, gosh, you may be the director of development. You say, I got to, my ED, executive director, CEOs, pulling this, and the board's over here doing this and doing this. A lot of times we can make more impact when we decide to go for it and, make that ask, pull that. Maybe you're the executive director and you're going, well, I'm not, my board's just kind of restrictive. You know what? Just tell them what you're going to go do and say, hey, look, we're going to go for this. We may not get it, but I promise you, we will not hit this number if we don't ask, if we don't do these things. Yeah. If you don't swing the bat, you've automatically struck out.
I think you don't even pick up the bat, I just think that we can talk ourselves out of that so easily, right? I've been saying this thing to a lot of people lately. I don't know why. You got to go for it. Life's too short not to. I'll tell you something. Life's long. Life is long. And I'm not talking about regret. I'm not talking about any of those kinds of things when I say this, but life is long and you need to go for it. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to look back and say, man, I wish I would have, because life is not short. I'm not saying it's long and it's a grind. Life is beautiful. And this is a beautiful time to be alive. And you want to talk about fundraising? I was talking to my mom yesterday. She works at the United Way. The United Way, especially the one that she's at, people really, really give in large amounts. I'm shocked at, like, some of the checks and, and who they're serving and whatnot that I hear about them getting. And I just says, well, doesn't that go to show you how much money's in the system? There's just so much money in this.
Well, okay. Here's a great point. If you don't go for it this year, there's no guarantee that it's going to be available next year.
Great point. Great point.
I mean, I'm just saying, in our economic times, we're seeing, I saw a video the other day. It was in a city here in the United States, and it was reminiscent of Hoovervilles, which was back in the 1920s during the Depression, of these shanty towns that were built. And it's in a city right here in the United States. And it wasn't just like a couple of shacks. It was a full-on long group of buildings that they had just scabbed together. People are living in. My point of that is, there is a tremendous amount of money in the system, and it's held at the very, very top. But those are the people that are going to give. They want to see change. They want to see things happen. I talk to people on a daily basis, and they want to do something. And this is what a guy told me. He said, here's the deal. I got plenty of money. He said, I've been very blessed. I made a lot of money. He said, but I can't, and I pay a tremendous amount of taxes, and they squirrel it away, and it does nothing happen. It just doesn't do any good. He goes, when I donate to this organization, I know that that the people that they serve are going to benefit in a way that's going to be life-changing. And he, wanted to do this. This was a big deal. He wanted somebody to ask him to help, to say, come and ask me to invest in your mission. I mean, he had the things he does. He gives a tremendous amount of money away, but that was one of the things that really was interesting to me. So if you don't ask them, they're not necessarily going to give you, but they want you to ask. How many times have I heard somebody say, well, I had a guy give $25,000 to the Fund and Need one time. He goes, well, if Jason would have asked me I might have given more. He'd asked for more.
Hey, that's not ego either, by the way, but I want to tell you something about like just people and interpersonal communication these days and what people crave for interaction and wanting to be involved. Like the people that have that kind of wealth and access, they want people to engage them. These folks, most of these folks, I'm going to go ahead and typecast them. Most of these folks aren't reclusive. If they want to give anonymously, fantastic. And God bless them. That's awesome. But a lot of these folks that are like engaged and they're moving about and they're, building business or whatever, or whatever it might be, they actually want that engagement.
They want you to go for it. They want you to go for it.
That's what I'm talking about.
This lady, I went and I said, who's the biggest fan you have? And she goes, that'd be Miss Johnston. So I go and she goes, why? I said, because I'm going to go ask her for some money. We were getting ready to do a little fundraiser and it was a very small event and very intimate. And I said, but I'm going to go ask her for some money to get some help. And she said, well, I don't know about that. I said, well, why? She goes, well, she just paid for a wedding in Belize and such and such and so and so. And I was like, I'm going to ask her for more then, because I was like, she's got plenty of money if she's paying for weddings in Belize. And I did. She was, and she was so glad that I came and asked her, because I said, I hear you're the biggest fan. She goes, what do you mean? She goes, I said, well, you're a good donor. And she goes, oh, I love this organization. I love what they do. And she goes, how can I help? How can I help?
Man, people want that. I'm telling you.
They're looking. They got, because she's got money. That's not the issue. She just wants
ego.
That's
also not ego.
She just wants to make sure that it goes to a good place and it helps people.
And if there is ego involved, then that's a very easy playbook for you to follow. If there is ego involved, I'm trying to be polite. It's like, I don't think it's ego.
When you're in your board meeting, you said, hey, look, I want us to go for it. And they say, well, I don't know. I said, you know what? Jason and Trevor said it's okay.
That's awesome. Yeah. Hey, we're speaking of which, like we're starting to get, I don't know how many episodes it took to get here, but we've always been getting some really nice feedback the whole time. But we're literally getting people calling us that I've never met before, saying, yeah, and I listen to every episode when I'm driving, and I go, oh, wow. I was like, wow, it's nice to meet you. So yeah, if you're listening to this right now, it's really nice to meet you. Feel free to reach out to us. We're very easy to reach. It's Jason at hjafundraising.com and Trevor at hjafundraising.com. I don't know how this gal got my number. It's so funny. What a sweetheart. Just, hey, and I'm trying to get my executive director to really start utilizing some of these ideas and whatnot. I'm just like, man, that is just too cool. So do us a favor, because I guess we have ego. We want to hear that feedback, but it's good. It's coming from a good place.
Do more than that. Just share this with somebody else. That's the fee we ask, is that you'll share this with somebody who you think would benefit from it.
I love that. I'm glad you brought it up, bro. Thanks a ton. Really, really cool. Appreciate you. All right.
Always,
thanks everybody for listening. Yeah, really good. We'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so much.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you love our podcast, click the download button, rate us, and follow us on social media at HGA Fundraising. Get out there, start fundraising, and raise more money. See you next time.